table topics. And for that, we have Samantha Young to be our table topics master.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, the guests that I invited that didn't arrive, and viewers at home. Table Topics is the appetizer of our meeting where volunteers have the opportunity to give a 1 to 2 minute improv speech, and guests are particularly encouraged, but I don't hear. And extemporaneous speaking is a skill that we all need with friends, family, at work, school, and so this is your opportunity to practice. When you come up, we'll shake hands. I'll say your name. I'll give you a topic or a question to answer. You'll have 30 seconds to collect yourself, and then you'll begin giving your 1 to 2 minute speech. All right. Who wants the opportunity? Please volunteer. All right. This is art. The question I'll give you is, what's your favorite silly superstition?
Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. Superstitions can be funny, they can be debilitating. I have a favorite silly superstition, and that is the superstition that it's bad luck if a black cat crosses the path in front of you. And where I got that this was a silly superstition was when I owned 2 cats in Palo Alto, one of which was jet black. These were rescue cats. Jet black, about this big, and his sister, there's a word for a multicolored tabby cat.
Calico.
You know that?
Yeah, calico.
Calico. His sister was a calico. This black cat loved to take walks with us. How many of you have ever seen a cat that would take a walk with you and go for blocks away from the house and follow you like a dog and stick by your side? Anybody ever had that happen? I'm not alone. This cat was the most loving, affectionate cat, and came with us from Palo Alto to Fairfield, cooped up in a cage, just really wanting to get out of the cage and just get out of that vehicle. Half-continent trip across Wyoming. Didn't agree with that cat. When he got to Fairfield, he quickly scoped out the territory, 2 or 3 lots around our house, and discovered Burlington Avenue, and that was his demise. Within a month of arriving in Fairfield, he didn't make it across Burlington once when he tried. Got hit, died. And that was a sad loss for our family. And with that, I give you back.
I can still do it.
The question I have for you is there a superstition that you believe has some validity? What is it?
Goodness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where do superstitions even come from? Fear, I suppose. I'm so thankful, before I got up here, I counted you, and I'm so thankful there are 14 other people here because I have triskaidekaphobia, which is fear of the number 13. I really don't. My dad used to make fun of superstitions. He would say that black cats crossing in front of him were good luck and the number 13 was good luck. I mean, he would reverse it. The one thing he did do, which was really just a fun thing, I think we had several cars, And when our car speedometer would turn over to like 10,000 miles even, or 22,000, every time it would turn over to an even number, we would all have to get out of the car and bow 3 times to the east. I don't know why. You just had to know my dad, for example. He loved taking home movies. And I know I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but I'll get back. We took a family trip from New York to Maine, to Bar Harbor, to Nova Scotia, and we went through Rhode Island. And so he decided that my brother, since Rhode Island was such a small state, my brother would run across the state of Rhode Island. So we started at the sign where my brother started out running. We're shooting in the back of the car. I guess Mom was driving, Dad was taking. And he'd stop every now and then, and finally we got to the, you're leaving Rhode Island, welcome to whatever state's next to it. And my brother comes running up like this. Hey, that was just my dad. He liked to have a lot of fun. On a serious note, I read something once that really stuck with me about superstitions. They're all silly, I think. But Emmett Fox, one of my favorite authors, said that if you're superstitious, you don't have faith. That superstitions come from fear. Oh, step on a crack, break my mother's back. Oh no, I can't do that. It's fear. And if you have total faith in God, you have nothing to fear, and so we should not be superstitious. So, thank you, fellow Tristan.
Superstitions are based on the belief in faith in magic or luck. Tell us a time when you believe magic or luck played a role in your life. You got it? You said it. Tell us a time when you believe magic or luck played a role in your life. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll think for a second here. Okay. All right, fellow Toastmasters, guests, no guests, viewers at home. So I, on the spot, cannot think of a time, for some reason. I feel like my life has actually been very magical, but I can't think of a time, so I'm going to talk about Harry Potter. And how,
Yay.
and how his world was extremely magical, starting with that train station where the gate, was it 13 and a half? It wasn't. It was something and a half. And they could...
9 3/4.
9 3/4, thank you. I was thinking of 13. 9 3/4, and then how they would step through and get onto this amazing train. I'm just thinking of the movie, how they're flying through the countryside, playing with wands and spells and potions, and what a magical world that was. And growing up, I think I was a teenager when I was reading those books, but just being immersed in that world of magic and seeing those possibilities, especially for J.K. Rowling to write and think of so many creative magic spells. I thought that was interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Did all of our table topics participants qualify?
Everybody qualified.
Everybody qualified in the names, please?
Art, Net, and Annalise.
Awesome. So, can we all vote for the best table topics, please?
Which will complete the CC manual. Over the course of his Golden Speaker's tenure, Jeff has given speeches on political topics ranging from his penchant for the Fourth Amendment, his loathing of traffic enforcement cameras, persuading the governor to have mercy on a medical cannabis patient, and most importantly, his hero, Mohandas Gandhi. He's also given non-political talks, such as his gluttonous obsession with India Cafe, and most recently, his inspirational dog, Waffles racing experience. Tonight, Jeff culminates his GSTM experience by presenting a version of his political stump speech that he has given to civic groups and captive audiences over the course of his 10-month political campaign for state representative. Jeff hopes to fulfill the speech objectives by inspiring his audience with a hopeful bold vision for the future of Iowa, as well as to further his quest to eliminate filler words. Please join me in warmly welcoming Jeff Shipley.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and likely undecided voters in Jefferson, Davis, and Van Buren counties. My name is Jeff Shipley, and tonight I'm speaking to you as a candidate for state representative. I will offer a brief introduction of my personal and professional background, tell you why I'm running for office, share with you some of my deeply held beliefs and convictions, and hopefully at least touch on one public policy proposal which I feel will benefit all of Iowa. So again, my name is Jeff Shipley. I've lived in Fairfield, Iowa for just over 3 years. And this is a pretty unique place. It's a fun place to live. Walking down Main Street, it's hard not to become inspired by all the successful entrepreneurs and artisans that inhabit our community. I've been gainfully employed as a bankruptcy paralegal for attorney Ed Noyce, and I've been very fortunate to have that opportunity. It allows me to work with individuals and families who are undergoing a stressful financial situation, oftentimes through no fault of their own. I'm very proud of the legal work that we do there in preparing bankruptcy petitions, debt mediation. Oftentimes, clients come into our office crying, not knowing where to turn, unsure of the future, and they leave feeling with a smile, feeling refreshed, and empowered with the tools we give them. Also, I'm involved in a variety of service organizations in Jefferson County. I'm a practicing Catholic attending St. Mary's Catholic Church, where they've given me the opportunity to sing hymns, which I never really expected that I would enjoy it as much as I do. And last but not least, last year I learned the Transcendental Meditation technique, which has helped me overcome a lot of personal and professional obstacles, which allowed me to get as far as I have. And I'm very happy that I've been blessed with that technique and feel the TM technique has a lot of potential for application in our public institutions. Several years ago, as a political activist, I noticed that most political communications were fear-based. Oftentimes, political candidates were telling me to be afraid of something, usually the other person's position. And the accomplices in the media would often go along with that narrative, that there's fearful things out there and I need to be afraid. And I'll be the first to admit that fear can provide a useful purpose, allowing us to take precautions and prepare for a lot of unknown in the world. But when the hype of fear is overblown, it can paralyze the human spirit. And to me, that's a big problem. So that's one of the reasons I've been personally involved in politics over the last few years is to overcome the fear, present a vision of hope, love, and compassion that we can overcome these fears and secure a brighter future for all of us. Overall, I think you all would all agree that individuals are deserving of healthy food, clean air, pure water, that people should live peacefully, that we can go about our business with a sense of security in ourselves, that we can be recognized and accepted for the individuals that we are, and that we can be given opportunities for personal development to pursue our passions and realize our greatest dreams. Sadly, oftentimes in society we fail on all counts. America is the so-called richest and most powerful nation in the entire world. But there's people who are hungry and suffering, people who don't get enough to eat, people who are lacking basic shelter and necessities. There are people in Fairfield, Iowa right now that are making tough decisions between, are they going to give clothes to their children, are they going to invest their education, or are they going to give medicine to themselves? Very tough decisions when there's not enough to make ends meet. And I know this because I've worked with these people and I've seen it firsthand as my experiences as a legal assistant. God's green earth is being destroyed, degraded for the benefit of a select few. The environment is in peril. The gap between rich and poor in this country is extremely great and is growing every single day. So it's obvious there's tremendous room for improvement here, and that's why I'm running for office, to inject fresh energy, to shake up the status quo. And I do believe that I have the energy and the attitude needed to bring this perspective to Des Moines and beyond. Over the course of my campaign, I've been mocked and derided as an idealist. and I stand guilty as charged. I am an idealist. And I believe, more than ever, that's what we need. We need people who will stick to their ideals, who will stick to principle. Too often over the course of history, we've sacrificed our ideals, sacrificed our principle in the name of political convenience, and that has caused suffering along the way. So that's why I'm running for office. Now, any given individual is just a sum of their beliefs. So I want to share with you some of my deeply held beliefs and convictions. First and foremost, I believe in ahimsa, or the concept of nonviolence and peaceful cooperation. I believe force and the threat of force and coercion makes the world an uneasy place to live. Further, I believe in Christ's golden rule, that we're better off if we first love ourselves and then love others as we love ourselves. Unfortunately, too often there are people who fail to even love themselves, let alone love others. I believe in the sanctity of the individual. I believe that each individual possesses an innate divinity that deserves to be recognized. In my interactions with government, I've often been reduced to just a number, a driver's license number, a social security number, or a license plate. And when that happens, that demeans me. I'm more than a number. I'm Jeff Shipley. And when they treat me like a number, that demeans Jeff Shipley as the individual that I am. So I believe in the supremacy of the individual, and I believe that individual should always be recognized as such, recognized for the divinity and the uniqueness that each of us all possess as individuals. And further, I believe that individual liberty and personal responsibility in accordance with these concepts is the best way to organize society politically. I believe that society as a whole can be judged and will be judged by how they treat the most vulnerable among them. I believe that it's impossible to enjoy the blessings of liberty or prosperity when our fellow humans are suffering right alongside us. We had a war on poverty in this country dating back to LBJ several decades ago. Yet despite all these efforts and all the billions of dollars spent, grinding poverty still exists in this country. So I believe that individuals leading by example with personal acts of charity will always be the most effective way to help those in need. I believe that regressive taxation, like the proposed taxes on gasoline, hurt those on fixed and limited incomes the most. I believe there's a misapplication of criminal justice in our society. I believe that some of that misapplication is racially motivated. I believe further that statistics analyzed by the ACLU and published in a study last year support these beliefs. And I believe out of respect for the men and women of law enforcement who are tasked to uphold these laws, that they deserve that these issues are addressed head on and not swept aside, despite how uncomfortable they may be. And I believe if we do address these issues, it will result in tremendous cost savings to the taxpayer. What else do I believe? Essentially, I believe that our current systems are unsustainable. It's not just agriculture, which flips natural law and natural order on its head, but it's our financial systems that are unsustainable. It's our healthcare systems that are based on unsustainable models as well. So there's no shortage of issues and topics that have drastic need for improvement. And I believe that if leaders address these issues honestly and maturely, we can get back on the right track with relative ease. But if the current status quo of deceit and immaturity, which I feel grasps our political dialogue, if that persists, we could be in for a lot of stressful times ahead. So switching to a couple of public policy proposals, is anyone a public employee in the room? No, okay, so you probably don't care about IPER's reform or the deficiency in our pension system. Anyone attending the JFAN annual meeting tomorrow night? Art will be there, just one, okay. Anyone have a student at MSAE? I know you teach MSAE. Anyone else? Not giving a lot to go on. What do you guys want to talk about? What issues are important to you?
Taxes.
Taxes. Well, I know we care. Anyone else care about? Somebody else or something. Annette?
The JFAN issue.
You want to care? Okay. So the KFOs is tremendously important. When I go door knocking, that's one of the #1 issues that people ask me about. Is what are you going to do about the pollution of KFOs that are essentially blighting our rural areas? And first, I believe all life is God-given and should be respected. That includes all human beings, but also the animals as well. And obviously the hogs and the CAFOs are, I think, treated with a lot of disrespect. So a couple different policy solutions which I think can alleviate this problem is first, a local authority should always have control of industrial agriculture installations. Earlier this month, or actually last month in September, the Adair County local county supervisors twice rejected a CAFO installation in their county. And twice, did you give me 8 minutes? Is that? Oh, shucks. Oh, okay. I'm running out of time quickly. Well, twice they rejected the local installation, then the state boards went over their head and approved it. So in every instance, I believe the local government is going to know their own locality, their own county better than the state boards can. So it's the local governments that should be in charge of where these installations are placed. Further, as JFAN, the lawyers there tomorrow, will agree with me that nuisance lawsuits in the court are a best way to handle this situation. Unfortunately, the courts often give undue consideration to the industrial agriculture providers. So if we legislatively, if you lower the threshold for what constitutes a nuisance, then you can reward damages on the insulted party. And it'll only take one big damage lawsuit for the whole entire industry to take notice. Further, there's an ag-gag bill that was passed last year. I think we need to repeal that so people, the consumers, know exactly the conditions of the installation. I'm running quickly out of time here. There's lots of issues that need to be discussed. There's drastic room for improvement. If you resonate with the ideals that I discussed here, I ask you to support my campaign. There's lots of ways to support me. You can support me with your vote. That's most important. But beyond that, kind words, thoughts, prayers, monetary donations are always accepted and asked for frequently. I have absentee ballot requests here that I brought with me tonight. You can fill those out, and once you fill them out and return them to me, I'm required by law to give them to the county auditor. But before I get clapped off stage here, I just wanted to appreciate everyone for taking their role as a voter seriously. And obviously, I know politics can be an uncomfortable topic, but I think the more we address these issues and respect our differences in an honest and mature fashion, that's what we really need to move forward. So again, I really appreciate frankly, everyone's concern for making a better community. That's what it's going to take. It's not going to be politicians who are going to solve our problems. It's going to be individuals on the individual level who take steps to make the world a better place. So I really appreciate you guys all listening to me, and I humbly ask for your support this election. Mr. Toastmaster.
Now, please find on a seat next to you or in your hand an evaluation form. Please put your name on it and take 2 minutes. Mr. Timer, please give us 2 minutes for people to write up evaluations. Welcome back. Our next speaker is Mr. Rick Starr, here to introduce Rick's talk. This is evaluator Diane Denbaum.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Rick Starr has been a member of Toastmasters and the Golden Speakers Club for about a year. He is also a charter member of the Cambridge Tech Masters Corporate Club. Rick is doing the 5th project, Speaking After Dinner, from the Entertaining Speaker Advanced Manual. The purpose of this speech is to prepare, rehearse, and deliver an 8 to 10 minute after-dinner speech, using the entertainment skills developed in the previous projects in this manual. Include humor, drama, or a combination of both. Make sure they are relevant to the theme of the speech. The objectives of this project are, number 1, to prepare an entertaining after-dinner talk on a specific theme. Number 2, deliver the talk using the skills developed in the preceding projects. The title of Rick's speech is Mr. Paxton. Mr. Paxton, Rick Starr.
Think about all the teachers you've known. Elementary school, secondary, middle school, high school, maybe college. Who here has known a teacher that has made a difference in their lives? Anyone? A lot of people. Me too. I've had the extreme good fortune to have a teacher who made a big difference in my life. It was my 5th grade teacher. His name was Mr. Paxton. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. I grew up in New York City in the borough of Queens. I went to the New York City public schools. My elementary school was PS 135, Public School 135 in Queens Village. When I started 1st grade, I was younger than most of the kids. I was about a year younger, and I was young for my age. I was immature. If you can imagine a kid more immature than a 1st grader, that was me. And the 1st grade through 4th grades were kind of rough for me. I didn't do well academically. I got into a lot of trouble. I talked out in class. Teachers said I had a fresh mouth. Nowadays that's known as being witty, but then it wasn't appreciated. I was a kid. I had a lot of energy. I couldn't sit still. I didn't pay attention. Today I might be diagnosed with ADHD and given Ritalin or some other medication, but that wasn't available in those days. To make matters worse, I was always being compared with my big sister. She was a couple of years ahead of me, and she also went to PS 135. And she had a lot of the same teachers that I did. And she was a perfect student, a perfect kid. She worked hard, she got good grades, well behaved, never any trouble. All her teachers loved her. The same teachers had a different opinion about me. And when you're a kid, you're very impressionable. So if you hear the same thing over and over, you begin to think this might be true. So I started to think maybe the teachers were right. Maybe I wasn't a good student. Maybe I wasn't even a good kid. And the final straw came at the end of 4th grade when I found out who my 5th grade teacher was going to be. The dreaded Mr. Paxton. All my friends said I was in for it. He was the worst teacher in the school. He was strict. He was mean. He punished you for any little thing you did. And I thought, great. Another wonderful school year to look forward to. My friends were right. Mr. Paxton was strict. He was very strict. He didn't take anything from any of us. And we learned quickly that when he told you to do something, you did it. He told you to stop doing something, you stopped. He didn't have to ask us twice. Looking back as a parent and someone who's familiar with 5th grade boys, I say, Mr. Paxton, good job. Well done. Well done. One thing that my friends were wrong about, Mr. Paxton wasn't the worst teacher in the school. For me, he was the best teacher in the school. He realized that the reason I was doing poorly academically was that I was bored. So he challenged me. He gave me extra work. He gave me additional assignments. This was the time of the space race. This was a race between the United States and the Soviet Union about which country would send an astronaut into space first. And this was a very exciting time, especially for a 5th grader. There were rockets and satellites, and astronauts. And Mr. Paxton saw my interest in this, and he gave me a special project. He told me to create a scrapbook with newspaper clippings and magazine clippings about the space race, and bring it to class and make a report every once in a while. I ate this up. I couldn't wait to get home and go through the newspaper and read it and cut out any clippings, put it in my scrapbook, and take it back to class. I became the class's space race expert. Another thing Mr. Paxton realized was that my self-esteem, my self-confidence wasn't that high. So he went out of his way to praise me in front of the class. And he said the most amazing things about me. And I was thinking, who's he talking about? Is this me? Maybe I'm the person that he's describing. All in all, Mr. Paxton was a very sensitive and aware teacher. He realized my potential. He saw a way to help me get to that potential. He also noticed that I needed a pat on the back every once in a while. I can't say I became a perfect student, because I didn't. I still had a fresh mouth. But because of Mr. Paxton, school became easier. I enjoyed it. Mr. Paxton, I was able to get through it. If Mr. Paxton wasn't there, I don't know what would have happened. The sad thing about this story is that we don't appreciate even great teachers as a society. We say we value teachers, but we really don't. One Saturday, I was in the subway, and I saw Mr. Paxton in the token booth, selling tokens. He was an extraordinary teacher, and he wasn't even being paid enough to support his family. He had to take another job, selling tokens in the subway on the weekends. After I finished middle school, my family moved from New York City to Long Island. Went to high school on Long Island, later went to college on Long Island. I thought about Mr. Paxton a lot. And I really regret not going back to Queens and telling him what he had done for me. So all these years later, I'm going to do it now. Mr. Paxton, if you're listening, this is Ricky Starr from PS 135. You were a wonderful teacher. You were a good man. Thank you for everything you did for me. Thank you.
Please grab another of these forms. And Luis, please give us 2 minutes. Our next speaker is Louis Denbound. Here to introduce Louis's talk is his evaluator, Jyotiraj Adhikar.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. Louis is the co-author with his wife, Tan, of the book Madly in Love Forever, a guide to true and lasting love. In addition to being a relationship coach, Louis is presently bringing communication skills, stress reduction techniques, and executive coaching to businesses. Louis will be giving his 4th speech from the Speaking to Inform Advanced Manual, a fact-finding report. The objective of this speech are: prepare a report on situation, event, or problem of interest to the audience. Deliver sufficient factual information in your report so that the audience can make a valid conclusions or a sound decision. Answer questions of the audience. Louis' speech is 5 to 7 minutes, followed by 2 to 3 minute questions and answer period. Therefore, think about questions related to his report that you would like to ask Louis when he is done. You have to ask questions to the Louis when he is done. Louis' talk tonight is entitled "How to Make a Great Toastmasters Club Even Better." How to make great Toastmasters Club even better. Please help me welcome Louis Den Baum.
Mr. Toastmaster, viewers at home, had a guest before, and especially you members of Golden Speakers Toastmasters. Golden Speakers has been the #1 club in Iowa for so many years, I don't have enough fingers to count those years. Furthermore, the club has consistently achieved the President's Distinguished Club Award, year after year after year. So when I became president in July, I felt a lot of pressure because we have to get this award again. The President's Distinguished Award. And I thought about it. And I said, you know, this is just a piece of paper. What's really important is that each and every one of you, and you, and you, and you, get what you want out of your Toastmasters experience. So the officers sent out a survey, and thank you, 16 of you completed it. Tonight I will go over the salient points of the survey and make some recommendations. First, let's look at the club's demographics. The club is 50% male and 50% female. We have 20% students and 80% people in the business world. Half of our members are working on their competent communicator manual, and the other half are working on advanced manuals. When we asked about what was most important to you in terms of the 3 main parts of our meeting, half of you said speeches. 25% of you said table topics. And the remaining 25% said evaluations. Now I know that that number is going to go up for evaluation interest as many of you complete your 6th competent communicator speech and you start to get assigned the role of evaluator. You realize, wow, there's more to this than meets the eye. Why did you join Golden Speakers? 5 of you said fear of public speaking. 9 to 10 of you were, again, interested in improving your speaking ability and delivering your speeches. 6 of you wanted to be in a social community that focuses on self-improvement. And 4 people wanted to improve their leadership. Other results, when we asked about would you come to another meeting in addition to Tuesday night, 10 people said yes, 6 said no. And the times for those additional meetings were all over the place except for nobody wanted Wednesday night. Learning styles, when we asked about learning styles, that was pretty evenly divided. One-on-one, small groups, workshops. Finally, and this is a big one, 11 people said they wanted additional mentoring. So now, time for recommendations. and I have 4. The first is workshops outside of these Tuesday night meetings. Now we know from your responses that these workshops will have lecture, question and answer, discussion, but more importantly, breakout sessions that give time for one-on-one and small group. And we have to have 3 of these. We have to have an evaluation workshop. There are strategies for giving evaluations, and we can teach you those, and then give you time to practice and give you feedback. Table topics. This workshop would not only teach you how to be the table topics master, but also there are strategies for answering table topics. And again, lots of practice and feedback would be part of these workshops. And finally, speech delivery workshop. It's great to go through the Competent Communicator, and there's a speech on vocal variety, and there's one on gestures, and there's one on organization, introduction, body, conclusion. But you go through that once, and sometimes you forget about the techniques. This would be an opportunity in this workshop to practice all of those and get immediate feedback. So these 3 workshops are crucial. Mentoring after the 3rd speech. Now, for those of you doing the Competent Communicator Manual, you could just ask your mentor if he or she will be willing to continue on with you. For those doing the advanced manuals, my suggestion right now is to find a buddy, pair up, and work with that person for maybe 2 speeches each, and then find a new buddy and mix it up. Watch videos of the international competitions and TED Talks. A couple people came up with this. I think this is a great idea. It could be on a Friday night or a Saturday night with popcorn, maybe preceded by a potluck. And then we get to see some of the best speeches that Toastmasters has to offer. The winners of the past few years' international competition. TED Talks are phenomenal, phenomenal. To watch and be able to share what you're seeing with your fellow Toastmasters would be fantastic. And then last one is attend officer training, even if you're not an officer. There are great speeches at the officer training given by distinguished Toastmasters from all over the state. The fall and spring competitions are where the state competition occurs. We do a club and then an area, and then there's the conference where you get to see everybody who's won. So I would suggest that you go to those. As Dilbert said, that's my plan. I'd like to thank all of you for your utter apathy. And now I would like to invite you to ask questions about the survey, my recommendations. So who would like to ask a question?
Where do I sign up?
Where do you sign up? Right after, at the end, you can sign up. We'll get somebody to work with you. Questions, questions, questions. Don't be shy. Let me ask you a question then. Which of those 4 did you like the best? Luis?
The TED Talk.
The TED Talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Workshops.
Another recommendation that I didn't mention was to recruit more students so we can get that 20% up. And that way we would be able to have the benefit of different types of speeches. You're in a different stage of your life, and your speeches would be a different variety.
Where would we do this?
Where would we do this?
And who's making the popcorn?
And who's making the popcorn? Okay, you're making the popcorn because you make incredibly good popcorn. Obviously, we'd find a home for that recommendation, someone who has a nice, comfortable living room with a big screen TV. But the workshops could be anywhere. We could probably get this room for a Saturday morning. Nice, comfortable room. We already know where it is, and we've got the setup for it. We'd be more comfortable in Other questions? Yes.
Would we allow guests to come to those meetings? Would that be a
That's a good question. I think for some of those, it would be valuable. Table topics is one that I can think of at the top of my head would be okay to have guests. I think the other two, I would prefer not to have guests there because it's very focused and our Toastmaster experience is being drawn upon. It would be hard for someone who didn't go through the competent communicator to get up and evaluate properly because we refer to those techniques we've learned when we're evaluating. More questions?
How many surveys did you put out to get 16 responses?
That's a very good question. There were 4 people who are active members of the club that did not answer the survey. For some of the statistics I used, I knew what their answers would be. I knew if they were men or women. I knew what manual they were working on. So I incorporated 4 more people's information into that. There are probably about 5 others that are on the member list, but they're not renewing their membership. So it made sense that they didn't answer the survey. Time for one more question. If not, thank you very much. Get back to the officers of the club with these recommendations and see which ones you're really excited about, and I will email them to everyone in the club. Thank you very much.
Mr. Timer, did all of our speakers qualify time-wise? They qualified. So our speakers are Lewis, Rick, and Jeff. Please vote for best speaker of the evening. Now begins the evaluation portion of the meeting. Here to conduct the evaluation portion is General Evaluator Stephanie Chambers.
Hey, Stephanie.
Okay, so now moving on to the evaluations. I'll ask our first evaluator, which is Dan Craig, evaluating Jeff Shipley.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, and especially Jeff. First, congratulations, CC number 10. Jeff did a lot of things well in this talk, and it was interesting to see him do number 10 after having seen him do 1 through 9. One thing I particularly noticed was that he looked sharp. I'd vote for this guy. I particularly like his pace of speaking. Confident in front of the group, not speaking too rapidly, maybe could have varied it a little bit or had a few pauses. But any of you who remember Jeff in the early days, he would talk 1,000 miles an hour. So it's nice to see him slow down so that we can follow him. There were some areas that I think could use improvement. One is notes, which you would think would be an obvious one. You almost were grimacing when you had to look at your notes. It was, oh, I gotta go look at my notes again. At one point you said, what else do I believe?
That was cute though.
It was cute, but I think we'll agree that they're a bit of a crutch. I think it's more of a habit than anything at this point. So that'll still be something to focus on. The other thing that I think could have made your talk stronger would be the use of stories and anecdotes. You had a number of beautiful points when you began to talk about what do I believe. Very strong points. It was obvious that these are strong beliefs for you, and we sympathize with them. But I think it would be better to have fewer and to illustrate them. The other thing is, we want to talk in terms of what is the value for the audience? What's in it for them? I know the talk is called My Beliefs, but if we continuously say, I believe so-and-so, I believe so-and-so, I think we're losing the opportunity to connect with the audience. So for example, if you're talking about nonviolence, you could give just a short anecdote of Gandhi. And then you could say, so we all can see how that illustrates how this is much more powerful than any violent technique that can be used. That would bring us all in. The other things you did well were you had a good beginning. You told us what you were going to tell us. And you inspired us at the end to improve America. You were telling us how we could vote for you. But you also went beyond that and said, individuals really will improve the world, not the politicians. So basically practice these values that we all hold. And I think that was very strong. Well done. Congratulations. Please keep going and let's hear more.
Okay, I'll now call up our next evaluator, which is Diane Birnbaum for Rick Starr.
Ricky Starr. I really have to begin this evaluation by saying that Rick's talk really moved me. It's almost like, what else matters? I was very moved. I had goosebumps at many parts. Goosebumps, little bumps when you feel moved. Mr. Paxton would have been very proud of you, and I think all that trouble that you had earlier on would have been gone. The questions they asked me here, what indicated to you that the audience was entertained? There was no question. You were all completely engaged, in my opinion, with the speech. Lewis was sitting like this. People were kind of looking at each other through the speech, like things like that. Would you agree? Audience, please raise your hands. Were you moved? Did you feel your heart? And your topic, which they asked, imagine just about any place you go, everyone's had a teacher. So it's a perfect, entertaining speech. All over the world, we've all had teachers. It was, you couldn't hear, the other thing too, you couldn't hear a pin drop. It was silent throughout the speech. You used every skill that we learn in Toastmasters. Fresh mouth, you yelled out, I was bored. So you had the voice volume, gestures, humor, story, just the best use of story. I just was riveted by your story, your sister, and personal things. Who hasn't compared themselves to a sister or a friend or brother? So much came in there. I was totally impressed. It says, was I impressed? Totally. And I'm a teacher, so you got an A+ from me. If I had my first grade, you'd have smiley stickers. I'd have a heyday. One suggestion, because you are a pro, and particularly a pro tonight. I would say this, that part where you talked about the space race. I would say two things with this crowd. You could draw us in maybe once or twice. Remember the space race to those of us that are in my age category. And then for the younger group, make sure they understand it. So you could say, do you remember hearing about the space race? And sort of get maybe a show of hands, just for once bring us into your talk, even though we were totally entertained. And then you'll get a feel, and you could do, that was when America was in that race with the Russians. That's just about the only thing I could come up with for improvement. Yeah, A+. I can barely see the words. It's mostly the feeling. It was fantastic. I was really moved. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. Now I'll ask Jody Red and Harry to give his evaluation of Lewis and Bob.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests and viewers at home again. It was, I say, it's a perfect fact-finding report. So in a fact-finding report, what we do is we prepare a report and put it to the audience. I mean, it's a small group, like an organization or a business, where we find the facts, what's happening around. We do research and put it to the people, and they make the decision. Here, exactly he did. So he found out what we all think he has. He had the issue where he wanted our rate club more better than what we have, and he had that plan. So he did the survey, he collected all the information and put it in front of us with recommendations. So we thought on those things. We use our brain to see what we could do out of those surveys. So that is the perfect example of fact-finding report. Great job. So now I will follow this manual. How will the speaker explain the purpose of the report to the audience? Yes, he was very clear. His purpose was to make this club even better. So he put his purpose exactly what he wanted to do. That was very clear. Was the report organized clearly and logically? Yes. The first introduction, he gave the introduction, what he wanted to do, how our club was, what he is doing from so many years in past, and what he wanted to accomplish. And then he has his survey report. And then he has his recommendations. So that was very logically arranged. So intro, body, and conclusion. So that was perfectly arranged. The only thing here is the body part, the survey part was very long. So if you can cut a little bit of your body part and make your recommendation a little longer, then that would be great. He used a visual aid, which was really good. It was supporting his views, not distracting. So most of the time what happens is there are so many words and so many pictures, the people will be, everybody will be facing there and speaker will be alone here facing the audience. Everybody will be faced that way. So that didn't happen because those slides were supporting his views. And I have two of the recommendations otherwise the speech was fabulous. So what is my first recommendation was, in intro you said the club did very good, but if you have something like the reasons for doing good, why did the club did so well? What did the member do? That's why we're here. So if you have, compliment the members by doing that, their attraction, you have pulled your attraction straight away, because if you compliment somebody, they'll be very happy. So that's my recommendations. so that you can start with. Another thing is you are putting your hand sometimes in your pocket, so I can see that. So that's, if you can improve on the two things, then you are the best.
Okay, so now we've had all the evaluators. Did all of the evaluators?
No.
Which evaluators met the time?
Monty?
Monty. That's it?
That's it.
Well, that means there's no need to vote. Because Monty's good with time. Okay. So now I'll ask for the report, so I'll ask Louis this report on the times.
Art had, for the table topics, Art did 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Ned did 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Annalisa, 1 minute and 12 seconds. For the speeches, Jeff did 12 minutes and 15 seconds. Rick did 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Louis did 7 minutes and 12 seconds. 3 minutes and 17 seconds for the questions. Monty had 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Dan, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Diane, you did 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Josie, you did 3 minutes and 49 seconds.
And now I'll ask our Marion Rita Saint to give her report.
Listen very carefully for the word of the evening. I'm here. One single person gets it. As far as some interesting use of words or phrases, Samantha said table topics is the appetizer. Annette said I have.
Dysconnectophobia.
Yeah, she said that.
What a word.
Annalisa, I can't think of anything, so I'll talk about Harry Potter. Monty brought in the topic of superstition by pointing out that all three topics, speakers, names started with an A. A little bit of humor there. Jeff, when the hype of fear is overblown, I stand guilty as charged when he was speaking about ideals. And he had so many good phrases, I didn't get a chance to write them all down. Rick, imagine a kid more immature than a first grader. That was me. And I couldn't wait to get out of the house, or to get home to look at the newspaper. Louis, when no one had questions, said, let me ask you a question then. And that's my report.
So now I'll ask Marty.
Okay, for tonight, Samantha had 1 1 so, 1 and, Art 1 Anna was clear, Annalisa 1 but, 3 and, Monty 1 so, 2 but, 1 and, Jeff 2 1 6 so, 1 but, and 5 and, Rick 1 1 1 so, 1 but, and 2 and, Louis 1 Dan 2 but, Diane was clear, Jyoti 1 and 4 so. Thank you.
Annalisa for the joke of the night.
Alright, so an old man bought a BMW Z4. He's really excited. He zoomed out of the parking lot and was cruising down the highway. He was going too fast because he was really excited. So he started to go over the speed limit and looks in the rearview mirror and sees a policeman with the lights flashing. He's like, you know what? I have a spiffy car. I can outrun this or outdrive this policeman. So he presses on the pedal and goes up to 140, 150. And then he's like, what am I doing? I'm too old for this nonsense. So he pulls over and waits for the policeman to come up. The policeman comes up to him, looks at his watch, says, I have 10 more minutes till the end of my shift. It's Friday and the weekend's coming up. If you can give me one good reason I've never heard before why you're speeding, I will let you off the hook. So the old man thinks for a second, and he says, my wife ran away with a policeman 20 years ago, and I thought you were returning her. So the policeman says, have a good day.
That was a lot of fun. Okay, so now for my report as general evaluator. Well, it's been a fun evening. We've certainly had some different talks tonight. We started off in terms of the evaluations. My job is mainly to evaluate the evaluators. So we started off with Monty giving the table topics evaluation. And I must admit, I love that beginning about the three names all being A. I thought that was just such a brilliant thing to have noticed, and it really added to the whole superstitious feel of the so that was great. I liked the fact that you pointed out the irony, in a way, of art speech ending with such a sad ending for that cat. So I thought that was great. And I liked the fact that you gave everyone suggestions. So that was really great. Then we had Dan evaluating Jeff Shipley's talk. I liked the way you asked us to remember back and to compare the old Jeff with the new Jeff, which I thought was really great, because I think we all have noticed Jeff's progress. I thought that your suggestions were spot on in terms of, Jeff's need to perhaps forget the notes, and the fact that he could add more anecdotes and that less is sometimes better. But the only thing I didn't particularly like the example. I mean, it's hard when you're on your spot as an evaluator, but I didn't particularly like trying to come for Jeff to mention more about Gandhi as his example. I mean, I think we're mentioning Gandhi at all and non-violence. I mean, I like that sentiment, but I think in terms of voters, it might bring up the question of, well, does that mean that you don't support violence? Does that mean you wouldn't support sending troops to Iraq or Middle East and that sort of thing? It kind of brings up a lot of questions, which maybe in a short speech you probably don't have time to cover. It gets a little bit complex. So in some ways it might be better to just not bring too much about Gandhi unless you want to go into those sort of topics. So that was my only thing. You have to be careful as to what examples you give people when you're making suggestions of how they can change their speech. And then we had Diane evaluating Rick, and I loved your introduction, and because I felt tears because of Rick's speech, so I felt moved, and I thought that was great that you emphasised that, and you certainly went through all the things that Rick did very well. And as you said, he's a pro, so it is hard to think of things to improve upon. But I did like the fact that as an evaluator, you actually got out there and did something. You sat down at least and showed Lewis in his chair, so you showed some gestures, because there's a tendency with evaluators, for us to just stand behind the podium and go through the manual and not show what we mean by things that could be improved. So that was really good. And then Jody evaluating Lewis. I like the way you explained how this was a fact-finding mission, because I think perhaps some of us would have expected that that title would relate to something else, more statistics or something like that. But I think that was good the way you explained how it did fit the project. I liked your suggestions about how perhaps the survey could have been cut a bit shorter and recommendations expanded, and how the slides weren't distracting, so that was good. And your suggestions were good in terms of things that Lewis could improve, and the fact about pockets. It's always good that when you notice actual physical things that people do, because sometimes we all forget to notice those things. So overall, I thought all of the evaluators did a really good job tonight, and it's been a really good meeting. Now, how would you like to?
I, for one, thought the crumple of the paper toss was a great technique. Now it's time for us. So, this ballot counter, I need to know what the result is.
Obviously, I won best table topic since I counted.
One thing, I know this is very last minute, but I totally forgot to say that Jeff was disqualified. Sorry. Oh.
Yes, is there anyone who was misled by that? Jeff disqualified for time.
I don't know if I did say.
Okay. So for the best table topic speaker, may I have a drum roll? And the best speaker of the evening is Art Atkinson. This meeting is adjourned. Turn off that. We have, next up is best evaluator, and we have one qualified candidate. So
It was a steal.
drum roll for best speaker of the evening. Rick Starr. Now, Jeff, for completion of competent communicator.
No, that's not for them, that's for someone else.
Well,
Yourself, right?
we don't have a number 10 here, but congratulations everybody. Is he in the room? Not in the room any longer.
Mystery.
Now it's my pleasure to invite the club president, Mr. Lewis Inbound, to return to this lecture.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Very quickly, because we're out of time, but this is important. A week from tonight is our big meeting with Dr. Laurie Mill.
In the library.
In the library. Okay. So I'd like as many people as possible to get there at 7 o'clock to set up. So if I see some hands of people who would be willing to come early to help set up, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
I haven't seen anything go out about snacks.
I'm going to do it right now. Good. Okay. So in the library, because they're particular about food being brought in, We can bring in cookies, we can bring in crackers, cheese. So those are the types of things, hummus, things like that that are easy to clean up. So if everyone would bring something, and maybe if, buddy up with someone and one of you can bring crackers and the other can bring a dip, so it's not a lot. Because I know crackers can be expensive and dips can be expensive, so. Pair up with somebody else and bring a combination of crackers and different dips. Drinks can be tricky. We can bring drinks. I would suggest actually water. We'll buy some water, just because we don't want to have coffee or juices that can stain. Yeah. So that's the food and the setup. Diane has set up a Facebook event. Please share this event with all of your Fairfield friends. Also, Rick has put together an email, and I will forward that to everybody in the club. Forward that to your friends. Posters. There are more posters over there on the table. If you find a place to put it up, work, or someplace, please take some more posters. This is really, these two events that we have now and in January, we try to pull out all the stops for these events to get everybody we know to come. This is going to be a great talk. It's an interesting topic, and it's a great way to introduce people to Toastmasters. Any questions on next week's event? Yes?
Is there any of our new members who hasn't yet attended one of our special speaker events? I thought so.
But I'm not a town,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna be there.
In the past, these things have been shoulder to shoulder, cramming 100 people into a room that comfortably fits 40, and the energy is fantastic. The community loves these events. We have Dr. Lori Knoll, who I've heard speak. This is going to be incredible. Is there anything, what would be the most valuable thing to get a bigger invite and a bigger crowd there? What do you think is the step that...
I think it's really a matter of everybody saying, I'm going to do my part, and not saying, there's 25 members, the other 24 will do it. Everyone will really call some people, take it seriously to invite people on Facebook, and send the emails out. We all have lots of contacts. And, if they hear it from more than one place, that's even better. If you send to the same person I sent, they'll think, wow, this is a great event. So call some people on the phone, send the emails out, put the posters up, everything. We just attack from all angles.
The fallout from these, well, fallout is not the right word, but the downstream effect, people come a month later after the special event. We don't see them, and then they come back and they say, that was such a great thing, I want to join this club. It sometimes takes time to percolate in their minds, but people routinely show up months later and join.
Yeah, thank you, Art. This is really an important event for our club. And furthermore, just to alert you that we are having the area competition a week from Thursday here. Who are our club people? Rick competing, and who's competing in the evaluation?
Is Will the evaluator?
Will, yeah. So they'll be competing against people from other clubs. That will start at 7 o'clock. And I'll send out an email to remind people about that. But in the meantime, just focus on next Tuesday night. Any other questions?
The date of that competition, is that the 20th?
The 23rd. Thursday the 23rd. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.